Here are the biggest mistakes that I see new AI agency founders make, whether they are either pre-revenue, then it's oftentimes worse, or even when they have had a digital agency successful in the past and they just get started with the AI space. So number one is the most important rookie mistake that I see a lot of people make, and I even see like a lot of experienced people make, which is you build it first and then you look for demand, which is not the way to do it. The way you want to do it is you go to the market, you validate demand first, then you build it. You sell it confidently and then you figure out a way to fulfill the promise. If it's not a custom solution, which I wouldn't recommend starting with in the beginning, but it's actually a traditional digital service that is already tried and trusted and proven, like a website, like SEO, like AEO, Google My Business Profile Management, advertising services, creating social media posts, like traditional social media management, etc. All of these, or speed to lead even, right? Newsletter, database activation, everything around client acquisition and client nurture. These are fantastic use cases, tried and true, that they are working for others. You will be able to make it work. If you're doing some very in-depth, fancy type of automation that they want, you may actually fail and it's not recommended. And so just do that. And the way that you do it is, it would not be on Upwork, it would not be on LinkedIn, it would be in person. That's what I really recommend. If you are in the United States and you see that and you are somewhere closer to a bigger city, I would highly encourage you to do that. And if you're not in a bigger city, you're just in a smaller place, then don't even mention the word AI. Like, you can use the tools internally. Like, you also don't go around and sell people that you're using GHL. No, like, you white label it. That was the whole game plan in the beginning. Like, you white label it and you sell the outcome. You sell the CRM with functionality that's working. You sell them lead triage, you sell them phone acquisition systems, you sell them email marketing, all of the capabilities that GHL has, but you don't go and you rave all about GHL, although everybody that you know raves about it, you don't do that. So you also don't need to sell them AI. If you're somewhere in, on the outskirts of Kentucky or somewhere in Louisiana and people are not receptive to it, then just don't. Then find the business owners who just want problems solved. And the more rural you go, the bigger the discrepancy between what you are able to provide them and what they already have. There's usually a huge discrepancy. And if you find the right businesses in your local area, ideally that you already have some trust with, family ties with, or you grew up or you went to school with their children or whatever it might be, this is what I would love for you to pay attention to take into consideration this existing social capital that you have already built over many years. Because if you now started the business that you haven't done that, the experienced agency owners here in the audience will appreciate that. It takes time to build trust with a business. And so oftentimes the sales cycle is not just making the decision. It's like building the trust with you and seeing you across a variety of different experiences over time so that they can assess how you really are, because everybody can front and say things, but like, how do you behave under pressure? How do you behave across different times, across 10 months, 20 months, 30 months? How do you show up? Do you show consistency? That's so people know how to trust you, right? And repeat stories, opportunities where you can share something vulnerable, all of that can't happen in the first meeting. You usually don't do that. But at some point there comes the point, and then trust is really built. So all I'm saying is it takes time to build this trust. I would like for you to think of it like an asset. It's like, you wrote a certain type of article, and you really took the time to like write that and put time into that. Well, now time has gone into that. Building relationships is much bigger than that. If you really count the hours that it takes to build one of these relationships, take the hours, for example, that you spend with that business owner's child in school, for example, being together. We're talking about like a multi-year period. All of that is the trust that you can currently leverage, and then go to these business owners and approach them and talk to them about the opportunities available to them. And that's number one, what I would say. Go to the market. And so the second mistake also that I've seen is people are overestimating the effectiveness of digital outreach these days. I don't even think people are getting this. We've just been living through the last 6 years after COVID, and people still think it's 2017, 2018, where you can just send a few Instagram DMs or a few LinkedIn messages and people get back to you about your service and they're all stoked for it. And that's not the case. On the other hand, there's a massive backswing towards in-person acquisition. And obviously, I've built my whole brand around this. I built my success stories, my case studies around that type of acquisition system, but it's not mine. Like, that's why I also don't get offended if other people give that same advice. I'm like, yes, let's tell people what's actually working in the marketplace. And that is by far, hands down, the most successful, most effective, by far, acquisition strategy that you can currently run. Unless you already have a brand online, unless you already have experience with digital outreach, unless you have done it before. But if you're truly getting started and you don't really have a brand, and you also don't have an already existing Upwork profile nurtured from the past, etc., then just don't. Unless you're working your warm network, then those, of course, you can do that. So you work your warm network with warm outreach, digital warm outreach, obviously in person that can be too, but the highest likely, like you have a higher likelihood of your warm contacts actually responding to you if you send them a message digitally, but then you go acquire clients in person. And here are also some important benefits of that for you. Like you will also be able to enjoy life much more, right? Because you get to acquire clients in person and make all of the adjacent learnings that come with actually meeting people in person. You learn etiquette, you learn, how to take care of yourself, you learn how to pay attention to the details of your looks, your demeanor, your habits, your appearance, etc. Right? All of the pieces that usually are neglected when you're just working from home. And all of that elevates your standard even when you're working from the home office. So there are great benefits of actually acquiring people in person. Plus, at some point, you will have to have a conversation with the client. Like it's very rare unless you really build SaaS. But even then, like you will at some point sell enterprise clients if you really want to win in SaaS, or you're gonna sell uh, employees on that. Now, you may be of the mind that, okay, I'm gonna have a team of agents and I'm gonna build this $1 billion. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. All I'm saying is like being able to have conversations that will also help you in instructing these agents when you have the clarity of communication and the capacities to concisely articulate your thoughts and instructions that you want to give. So that's the second mistake. So here's what we've covered so far. We've covered client acquisition of market validation first, not building and then going to the market, but the other way around. We also covered in person. Other mistakes that I've seen is that we just overcomplicate it too much, that we just do something that is so fancy and we believe that we need to do that because otherwise it wouldn't be unique, and unless it's unique, I can't charge enough. And that is totally the opposite. You can't charge enough by just doing something that's working, a traditional digital service offering very well. When we're talking about AEO, when we're talking about SEO, advertising, everything from the creation of the ads to the metrics, to the reporting, to the actual media buying of that, whether it's, as I said, SEO articles or social media management on all kinds of platforms, etc. All of these traditional digital service offerings are boring. And so we think that they're going to be disrupted by AI. But what I'm seeing is that AI is actually most effective at doing that. Because AI, oftentimes we think of it as this new digital offering. And we thought it was. And maybe a chatbot, arguably a voice agent, are two like pure type of AI offers. Everything else, maybe consulting, maybe Claude Cowork, maybe those are like very pure kind of AI offers. But even Claude Cowork, I would rather say that this is actually business process outsourcing just done with AI, right? It's kind of data entry. It's like all of these things, cleaning up your files, organizing your stuff, looking for information, knowledge bases, etc. All of that is something that an assistant would have done previously. So my point holds true. It is what has already been working in the past that is now just being, AI is being applied to and utilized for that. And that's the third mistake, making it too hard. So here is basically the whole breakdown of everything that we've covered. Go validate first, then build last. Second mistake is actually make sure that you acquire clients in person, not just don't overvalue it online. And a lot of people here, I may add to that too, is that they believe that it's for some reason easier to build on to acquire clients online, and they would prefer that because they actually don't want to confront their fears of rejection of actually meeting people in person. And they think it would be easier, but it's not easy. You can spend months messaging people and get nothing back. On the other hand, if you would just go to some rooms in person, you would be able to have dozens of conversations just within an evening, and you get so much faster market feedback. And it's also just going to be such an important, incredible enjoyable way of acquiring clients in person, and probably also the right clients, because it also is a certain self-selection type of opportunity that whenever you meet somebody in person, they have to have removed themselves from the operations of the business to a certain extent that they can actually be there and attend these events in person, which is also very important.